So it is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Ellen Pikitch, our Endowed Professor of Ocean Conservation Science and Executive Director of the Institute for Ocean Conservation Science. Dr. Pikitch exemplifies the scholarly excellence and real-world impact that defines our university at its best. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Pikitch to the stage.
Thank you so much, President Goldsmith. And let me extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's here today. I have to say I am so honored to be here and to be able to celebrate our soon-to-be invested endowed positions. And also I want to extend my thanks for the vision and generosity of our donors. I'm going to talk today about the idea of risk and how sustained philanthropic support can help us take big risks. So I look at an endowed professorship as really being a catalyst. It gives a person the freedom to explore big, bold ideas. But when we push beyond the boundaries of the known, there's an element of risk. And things might not always go the way that we expect that they will. But it's important that we embrace that risk, because only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far we can go. So I'd like to share with you a story of the way in which sustained philanthropic support has helped me by giving you a personal story. And I'm going to speak about my work in a place called Shinnecock Bay. Shinnecock Bay is on the south shore of Long Island. It used to be a vibrant ecosystem of great ecological, economic, cultural, and spiritual importance. But by the time I got to Stony Brook in the year 2008, it was a very degraded place, and it was in a state of deep decline. In fact, for decades before I arrived, Shinnecock Bay was plagued by harmful algal blooms, including brown tides, pictured here. They actually are brown. I always say it looks like someone spilled a cup of coffee on the bay. And also red tides, which can be fatal to humans. Why were these occurring? Largely because of failed septic systems, which leached nitrogen and phosphorus. These are things that we often think of as nutrients, but these nutrients actually fueled harmful algal blooms. The bay also experienced a severe loss of seagrasses. A lot of that was because of the brown tide. Seagrasses are plants. They rely on sunlight to grow. And the brown tide obscured that sunlight. And so the seagrass died. And with that, the areas that are important for the nursery areas, the feeding areas for the fish and other wildlife in Shinnecock Bay. It's a sad story, but our clam population had also collapsed. At one time, the clam population in Shinnecock Bay was not only of regional significance, excuse me, but also of national significance, with a large share of the clams that were being sold and consumed in the United States coming from this bay. But overfishing drove the near extinction of clams from Shinnecock Bay. So obviously we have a very degraded ecosystem that faced us in 2008. And the science was very clear on what caused the problems. But what would it take to fix the problems? That was a lot less clear. We had some ideas, but we weren't sure if they would actually work. We decided to give it a try. So the cornerstone of our approach is something that I call hard clam sanctuaries. These are areas where we planted hard clams in high densities, and these clams filter the water. They remove the nitrogen and the phosphorus that would fuel the harmful algal blooms. And we did this to restore the natural filtration capacity to clean the water. Now, initially, when we started the project, I told you we had some ideas. And this is to point out that not everything, not everything we did actually worked. So we started out by planting what we call seed clams. These are small clams, and we used these because they were donated to us. They were very small clams, but they were free. And we planted these seed clams in various parts of Shinnecock Bay. A few months later, we put on our scuba gear. We went down to check out, how are our seed clams doing? And guess what? They were all gone. They'd been eaten by crabs and fish that lived in the bay. So we took a deep breath. We had to explain this to our donors, of course. And we thought, okay, we're going to have to buy big clams. And that's going to cost a lot more money. And we're going to have to raise more money. But we decided, let's give that a try. And luckily, we were able to raise the money. Our donors stood by us. And we planted large adult clams in Shinnecock Bay. And we started to see results, little by little. The brown tides, which used to take up the bay most of the summer, started to be shorter and shorter in duration. And one year, after about 5 years, there was no brown tide at all. And we asked ourselves, wow, is this something that'll last, or is this just a fluke? Only time would tell. And it turned out that within 10 years, it was clear that the restoration had succeeded. We had eliminated brown tide. Okay, so from an early failure was born a big success. So whereas for years, for decades, Shinnecock Bay looked like this most of the year, it now looks like this. In 2022, Shinnecock Bay was designated as a global hope spot by the organization Mission Blue. This puts Shinnecock Bay in the same league as iconic places such as the Galapagos Islands, the Ross Sea in Antarctica. There are only about 150 of these hope spots all around the globe. So it's a very special designation for us. And now, Shinnecock Bay serves as a beacon of hope, not just locally, but also globally. And we're inspiring others to take hope, to have hope and to take action. We've inspired at least 2 other hope spots that we know directly were the proposal to designate them was inspired by the work in Shinnecock Bay. Because what we showed is that it is possible to turn some of the harm around that we've done to this planet. It's not too late. We can change things. But it takes good science, it takes support, it takes perseverance, and maybe a little bit of luck too. The Chesapeake Bay Hope Spot, which was just designated as a Hope Spot this year, is being headed by a Stony Brook alum who worked on the Shinnecock Bay Restoration Program and is using the techniques that we use in Shinnecock Bay to help restore Chesapeake Bay. So returning now to the idea of philanthropic support and science and risk. Science and scholarship thrive when we're willing to step into the unknown. Endowed support is a bridge that enables us to take that big step. An endowed professorship is an honor, and it's also an invitation. And I really encourage all of you, especially you newly soon to be endowed professors, to take this invitation and embrace it. Dream bigger, ask the bold questions, pursue projects that seem just beyond your reach, and leave a mark that will endure, even if it means the possibility of a setback or even a failure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. Thank you very much for your attention.